So, just a full disclosure, and I always like to start out by saying this, there are no foods that cause RA, and there are no foods that can cure it. That being said, if something were to ever change, I promise each and every one of you, I will get your numbers, I will get your emails, I will get every contact because I want to be the one to personally call you and let you know that there's been a change because it's not information that I want to keep secret. It's literally what my life work and my life calling is, and I love talking about how nutrition can help people. But I am here to tell you that a well-balanced diet can alleviate the symptoms of the disease. And so my goal, and hopefully after this, everybody can agree that I want to make sure that we go through and that to explain how eating a well-balanced diet with plenty of fruits and vegetables and all the different whole grains and also meats, poultry, and oily fish, we want to balance. And I know you're all going to say, oh, this is so lame. I was hoping for something really sassy and special. And hopefully you'll see that that is how I see nutrition. And there is no quick fix for any of this, but I can assure you that I've worked with patients, and the truth is, when we are eating well, we do feel better, and that is the goal. And so I want to make sure that you can walk away understanding, and there will be hopefully a few key points that you can get out, but I want you to all to understand that by following a well balanced diet, again, our goal is to reduce inflammation and your other symptoms. Again, my guess is that many of you are taking certain medications, and those medications can come with side effects. So we want to make sure also that our diet makes sure that we can alleviate any of those side effects that happens with the medications. And then again, because that there's already inflammation, that there is an increased risk of heart disease. So we want to make sure that we're reducing any risk of heart disease. We also want to make sure that we're maintaining a healthy weight. And again, that means not being underweight and not being overweight because we want to make sure that we're keeping our body where it should be at a healthy weight and also we don't want any excess weight on the joints as well. And of course, maintaining strong bones and muscles. Me, myself, working at hospital for special surgery, it's kind of something that I breathe and live every day, but it's something that I'm super passionate about, especially when working in pediatrics as well, because it's so important. And anybody who's been on steroids, it's going to be super important as part of your treatment plan to make sure that we're adding in some extra calcium and vitamin D to make sure that we're maintaining strong bones and muscles. So as you can a good nutrition is an important part of an overall treatment plan. Again, there's other things that we need to do, and nutrition is just going to be one of those legs that we want to address. So I wanted to include this slide. This is a rather new slide from the dietary guidelines, and it shows what percentage of the population is above or below the goals. And so if we look at just the first part, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this is total vegetable intake. Dark green vegetables, red and orange vegetables, beans, peas, and lentils, starchy vegetables, other vegetables, fruits, total, all of the things that you would think as a dietitian I love to speak about, and I do. We are so far below the line of what we should be doing. Again, I'm just going to go to the next slide. It's a similar slide. It's actually older from the previous dietary guidelines, but I just think it's a little bit easier to look at than side to side. So all of these orange is everything below as Americans that we're eating. So that means we're eating under the recommended amount of vegetables. We're eating under the recommended amount of fruits. Grains, we're actually doing a pretty good job about, but that's because we are also eating like Doritos and other things. Dairy, we're well below where we should be. Protein is one of those that we tend to do a really good job on. Oils and fats, we're super under. Now let's go to the other side. Added sugars, wow, we're doing a really good job. Over 70% of the population is at the goal. Wow, that's not something that we should be proud of. Saturated fats, again, we're at the 70% mark. Sodium, we're over like we're almost at 90%. So again, we want to see this graph shift from this top part, and we want to see that we are doing better, and we want to see that vegetables and fruit. And so again, same thing here, it's just a different way of looking at it, but we want to see these blue lines go into purple. And the other areas, we may be doing really well with grains, but it's only because we're eating mostly refined grains, and it's not necessarily the whole grains. So again, for what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to break it down, but we're going to go through choosing our fats wisely, how to get more whole grains. So it's not just refined grains like we were talking about, which is just, we'll go through that. More fruits and vegetables. If there's one thing that there's going to be a few things, but this is one that I talk about all day because the truth is, as you just saw, 80% of the population is not eating enough fruits and vegetables. So if I can get, I think I saw 9 or 10 people on here, if we can get each and every person to start eating 1 or 2 more servings of fruits and vegetables, and I mean vegetables too, not just the fruits, I think it would be a huge win, and you're going to start seeing that you're feeling better. And we'll talk a little bit about the fruits and vegetables and all of the different benefits that they have a little bit later. Also, again, we want to reduce our sodium. Remember, we were in that 90% category for added sodium, so we want to work on doing that. And then, of course, we want to maintain a healthy weight. So when we think about fats, we have these bad fats and then what I like to call better fats, because I don't like to say that, I just like to use words that matter. Like I don't like to say that you can never going to have them. There's just, or like people would call them good fats. Yeah, sure, they are better for you than the other ones, but we still want to make sure that no matter what we are doing it in moderation. Granted, I don't want anybody to start drinking a thing of olive oil. That's not the goal here. So again, that's why I'm saying they are better for you fats, but it doesn't mean that we just want to include them endlessly in our diet. Like everything, we still want to make sure that we're keeping everything in moderation. So when we talk about these kind of warning sign, red light kind of fats, that's when we talk about these fatty cuts of meat, the poultry with the skin, certain dairy products, butter and lard, our sauces and gravies made from animal fat, kind of those cold cuts, things like that. And then, of course, we have our vegetable oils and shortening. And these are a lot of hidden in some of our baked goods that we don't even know about. So some of those supermarket cookies and muffins, again, I just want to tell everybody this. I am a dietitian and I eat cookies. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. I know. But it's just about filling up, and that's why we talked about the fruits and vegetables. We want to fill up on the other stuff so that when we do come in contact with these things, we're not going to say, oh my gosh, I'm never going to eat them. If I said that, no one would ever listen to anything I said. And it also would be a complete lie because I eat these things. It's just about filling up on the other things so that when we do come in contact with these things, we are not as overindulging in them because we will feel better. So then when we talk about these better fats, we do want to eat more of them. So these are our unsaturated fats. And this is something that's really interesting as far as the research goes. They are associated, this eating a diet that includes more omega-3s have been associated with lower inflammation. And so we can get them from a variety of sources. We want to incorporate our plant-based foods and as well as our fatty fish, which is our halibut, trout, tuna, mackerel, salmon, herring, and of course, my favorite, sardines. So including these has actually been shown to reduce inflammation, specifically these omega-3s. So this is something, if you are not already, again, for me, from the nutrition perspective, I want to see that you're eating fish, these fatty fish, twice a week and including it in a healthy way. That being said, granted, that's not something that everybody likes to do or can do. So if you are not currently on an omega-3 supplement, I would talk to your doctor about doing this. Do not go out on your own and just start taking one. There are some that are better than others, and we want to make sure that it has the right amount. So again, full disclosure, I would encourage all of you to speak to your doctors about if you are not already including 2 4-ounce portions of fatty fish weekly, talk to your doctor about incorporating an omega-3 supplement into your plan. Again, do not go out and do this on your own. That is not my recommendation, but there are studies that show that people who are on omega-3s have reduced inflammation. So I do want to share that from a scientific perspective that those studies are out there. And so if there's one thing that you can be doing, this is something that has been shown to have positive benefits. And so again, it's not one of those secrets that I want to keep, but I want to make sure that it's done in a safe way from a supplement that's certified or third-party tested. And so there are safe ways to do it. So when we talk about protein, again, I also want to make sure that we're choosing lean sources. So we talked about fat and reducing that. And so there are making sure that we're choosing leaner sources of protein would be better for us. And so again, that does include animal and plant sources. So plants, those are our nuts, beans, seeds, legumes. Beans are a fantastic source of protein and also offer a lot of amazing nutrients, which are fantastic for the diet and gut health as well. And so we want to avoid those processed. We talked about that salami, bologna, canned meats, and things like that. And then also the cooking method is super important. If you take a piece of chicken and you fry it, again, we're leaning towards that unhealthier version or the less desirable version. But again, it's all just how you do it. And so I also try to tell people sometimes a cheeseburger, because again, I'm a dietitian who loves a good cheeseburger. It can be terrible for you in terms of how it's done, or it can also be a super healthy way in terms of how it's presenting. If you fry your meat and you put it on a white bun and there's just ketchup on it or something like that, versus taking a piece of lean meat, you're grilling it, so you're letting some of that fat drip, you're putting it on a beautiful whole grain bun, you're doing a nice side salad with it, you're having vegetables with it, or, it can be a great way. It's the same thing as if you look at your plate and you say, here's a piece of meat, here's a starch, here's our vegetables. So it's just kind of how we look at these foods. And so I just want you to see that there are ways to include things that kind of have these bad connotations to it, but it's just kind of reflipping the switch a little bit and the script in terms of how we look at it. We talked about whole grains a little bit earlier, and I was telling you that most of us are hitting the mark when it comes to grains, but that's because we're all eating refined grains. And so the goal really is that we want to choose whole grains. And the reason for this is because it has so many nutrients in the whole grain. And so when we talk about whole grains, we're talking about barley, oats, millet, bulgur, quinoa, oatmeal, buckwheat, wild rice, and whole wheat. And so most people, as we saw in that slide earlier, are eating close to 8 to 10 grams of fiber a day. I know, it's shocking as a dietitian every time I hear that number. The recommendation for where we should all be at is close to 25 grams. It's a big gap. And so that's why I want to make sure that if anyone gets, hopefully you're getting a lot more than just one thing out of it, but eating more whole grains. And so it doesn't only, maybe switching out, instead of doing a rice one night, a white rice, try a wild rice, or instead of doing rice, try it with a quinoa or a quinoa bulgur mix, or just try to have fun a little bit with your grains. And then the other thing I always like to tell people, and this people are always shocked, but it's kind of my favorite little secret to divulge, is just because it's brown and has the word wheat in it, it doesn't mean that it's healthy. In fact, sometimes it means that we need to open our eyes and, as I say to my nephew, turn on our listening ears a little bit more, because we really want to make sure that these products are kind of what they say that they are, because a lot of times they try to pretend that they're something that they're not and try to charge a little bit extra. And so my goal is to hopefully empower all of you to be the detectives for your own body and to say, hey, I don't want that. And so some things that I want you to look for is when you are reading the nutrition label, look for the word whole at the beginning of the list. And so that's a good clue. So here this is just a Thomas's English muffin. And so some of these key things that I want to show you. So if we look at the ingredients, we'll see the first ingredient is whole wheat flour. Anytime you look at any of your grains, the first ingredient should be some of those whole wheat flour or any of those grains that we talked about. Otherwise, you'll just see wheat flour or white flour or processed flour. Again, it's not to say that those are bad, but those lack that whole grains that we were talking about in terms of helping us get more into our diet. The other little detective trick that I'll teach you is that we're going to want to look under the carbohydrate with the dietary fiber. And so usually aim for around 3 to 4, anything higher than 3 to 4 grams a serving is a great place. But truthfully, anything over 1 is great, because as we want to keep getting that number upwards. So any positive changes that you can make to increase your fiber, and why we love fibers, because fiber makes us feel fuller. And so we like that because then again, we talked about when we were tempted by maybe some of those other choices that we're not going to feel as tempted by them. So I always say fiber is fabulous, and it truly is. So foods that contain fiber can actually help you maintain a healthy weight, which is one of those things that we're talking about. And it will also help lower your risk against cardiovascular disease, which is one of those things that we are talking about specifically with RA. And so there are 2 types of fiber. It shouldn't affect you so much that you have to say, oh, I want soluble, I want insoluble, but I do just want to explain it to you so you have that knowledge base for yourself. And again, we talked about aiming for 25 to 30 grams, and most of us are close to 8 to 10, maybe 12 if we're really stretching it. So there's definite room of improvement. So I think I said this earlier, is talk to your doctor about an omega-3 supplement or adding fish into your diet, specifically those high in omega-3. The other thing I encourage all of you to do is find ways to get more fiber into your diet with whole grains, and we'll also see from our fruits and vegetables. So the soluble fiber will help lower blood cholesterol. It kind of acts like this amazing sponge to kind of suck the cholesterol out, which is fascinating. And also it has been shown to help reduce blood pressure and inflammation, which again, that we want. It also, for anybody who may have diabetes or issues with blood sugars, that can happen also if you're on certain medications, it will slow the absorption of sugar and kind of help you maintain those blood sugars. So instead of peaking and kind of going up when we eat foods that have fiber, we kind of have a slower release, which is a good feeling in the body. Our body doesn't want to shoot out like a rocket. It kind of wants more of that slow curve. And so here are some examples of those soluble fibers, which are great. Also, if anybody's ever heard of Metamucil or things like that, these are also great sources of soluble fiber as well. And then we also have the insoluble fiber, which has been shown to help with gut health and also making sure that we're having good, healthy bowel movements, which is important because it's helping to increase stool bulk. And so those are our whole wheat products that we were just talking about, seeds, nuts, legumes, as well as these broccoli, cabbage, onions, tomatoes, all of these amazing vegetables that are truly delicious. So again, I know I just love it. It's just what I do. I'm a dietitian, so it would kind of be silly if I did not talk more about fruits and vegetables. Again, 25 to 30 grams. We are at 8 to 12 if I'm being very generous, but that would be ultra generous of me. So eating more fruits and vegetables. So I hope you can all walk away with saying, I need to grab some more broccoli. I need to grab some more cauliflower. And I am sometimes super lazy, not sometimes, pretty much always. And I always say the best thing to get is a bag of spinach, a bag of baby carrots, some cherry tomatoes, frozen broccoli, because these are things that you can just, even cabbage is another great one because it's super inexpensive. Things that I like to just keep these things and I'll just put my hand in the bag and throw it on the plate because we can quickly add these fiber, super, and also our amounts of different vitamins and minerals quickly without really having to think about it in a very low cost, affordable way as well. So even if we're doing, let's say, some rice and beans for dinner, just quickly even throwing it over some spinach or throwing it over some romaine lettuce or having some chopped up pico de gallo or something with it is a great way just to up that fiber content. And again, these are fiber, our fruits and vegetables are naturally low in fat and calories, and they're super filling. Why? Because it does have that fiber. So it all goes back to fiber being fabulous. And I would just want to make sure, hopefully, we can get everybody after this call by tomorrow. Everyone's going to be at 25 to 30 grams, and you'll all be calling me saying, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. So I just wanted to go through, granted, this is just a huge list, but the reason why I like to include this in my slides is because I am super guilty of this as well. I sometimes fall into this rut. I wish I could see all of your faces and hopefully you're shaking your heads that you can resonate with this as well. That I fall into this rut where I'm at broccoli, zucchini, lettuce. Like I kind of just stick to the same ones and I forget sometimes how many beautiful different fruits and vegetables are out there with offering so many different colors and textures. And so I like to include this for myself as well because sometimes I forget about so many of the different fruits and vegetables that are out there. Like when was the last time I had a carrot? Truthfully, I can't, it's not something that I necessarily gravitate towards, but having carrot, even just some of those baby carrots, like I was talking about, a super quick and easy way to make sure I'm getting some of that. Or even I go for the red apple and maybe not the yellow apple or the pineapple. There's just so many different things out there. Same thing. So, and they're all going to offer different antioxidants and different vitamins and different minerals. So the more that we stay in our pockets of, I'm used to this and this is what feels good. Granted, if you know that certain things don't feel good to your body, and many of you are, I'm guessing, are going to ask me about nightshade vegetables. Don't worry, I have a slide about that. But if there are so many things out there that if you have a few that are bothering you, no problem. But if we stick to the same profile, we kind of typecast ourselves and then we're only getting the same nutrients, the only antioxidants. So as you can see, here's a variety of different, we have green, there are so many different vegetables out there and fruits, white, brown, blue, purple. So I just wanted to kind of point that out and how they have so many antioxidants. I can't even list all of the different vitamins and minerals in each of those, but they're super powerful. And here, without further ado, here we go, because I'm sure everybody's asking about it. What about nightshade vegetables? I have RA. I've been told, my uncle's brother told me, don't touch nightshade vegetables. And I'm here to say, okay, if you never want to eat a nightshade vegetable again because it bothers you, great, no problem. Don't let anybody force you to eat a nightshade vegetable. That being said, you still need to eat vegetables. You just can't avoid these. Why? Because there are hundreds of nutritious fruits and vegetables that are not part of the nightshade family that actually can be eaten, and that's great. But there is no scientific evidence to support that there's a connection between consuming these and increasing the inflammation. That being said, I'm very careful to the fact that you may eat these and feel joint pain. If that is true for you, do not eat them. And that is not to say that that is not true for you. When I have mangoes, I have an itchy tongue. That is a reality. It doesn't affect my joints, but I know that there are things that happen in our bodies that there's just no scientific evidence to that. And that is okay. As long as we are finding other fruits and vegetables to give us those nutrients. And luckily for the nightshades, there are so many others that if you just choose not to eat these, that's fine. But so if you want to eat them and they're not bothering you, great. But if they are bothering you, take them away. Or maybe do a trial and say, I want to try for 2 weeks and slowly incorporate one by one and see if they actually affect you. There is no problem with that. But again, if you don't want to eat them, I have no problem with that. But that doesn't mean that you can never eat a fruit or a vegetable ever again, because we still want to make sure that we're getting our other nutrients. It's just to say that these, you'll be okay if you don't eat them. That's okay. We also talked about, if we remember at that beginning slide that I talked about, sodium, as Americans were up to 85, 90%. We're all consuming more salt than we need. Why? It's because it's abundant in our food and we just have no control over it. That being said, we've talked about this. I'm here to help you be those detectives, open your eyes, and to see kind of what's in our food and have a better understanding in that. So the recommendation is actually to eat less than a teaspoon of table salt. It's not very much, but sometimes we're consuming probably 4, 5, 6 teaspoons, which can be quite alarming. And so again, we want less sodium because that also decreases our risk of cardiovascular disease. So some quick tricks. Buy the fresh vegetables, obviously, but also, as I mentioned before, plain frozen vegetables are a great option. All that it is, it's taking the vegetables when they are fresh, just picked, and they are flash freezing them. So people say, oh, there's less nutrients. That's not true. It just maybe how you cook them. There's a lot of different things that we can't control, but we can't make ourselves crazy. But the bottom line is we still need those foods. And if we are getting those in small amounts, that's fantastic. So we can't always, be so hard on ourselves, because that's not going to work for us either. So, or if we have to go to canned, that's a fine option, but try to find the ones that say no salt added. And again, I always encourage people, if you are doing the canned vegetables, just make sure that you rinse them, because that will also help get some of the salt out. We talked about this with meats, but this again plays important with sodium as well. But limit those smoked meats, cured or processed beef, pork, those beef jerky sticks and things like that. The reason why they stay on the shelves for an unlimited amount of time is because they're cured with a ton of salt. And so we don't really want those in our diet. And again, take the salt shaker off the table. And later on, I do have a section about herbs and spices. But if we remove the salt and we try to incorporate things like cumin and turmeric, and there's fun spices that do have some anti-inflammatory properties that could be a fun way to include them, and that we don't necessarily need salt. We talked about this. Again, I want to make sure that everybody's maintaining a healthy weight. So sometimes even if we need to lose weight, we want to do it in a healthy way. And so that's defined as around 1 to 2 pounds a week. And so it's kind of, I think for me, it always reminds me, but to lose a pound a week, we need to cut around 500 calories from your diet each day. And that could be from working out, or it can be from dietary choices. But remember, we just want to make sure that we're doing it in a healthy way. And so if we have an inflammatory condition, which I'm guessing everyone here does, or that they know somebody who does, we do not want to go too low on our intake, because that will put our body in a further state of inflammation. And that is not the goal either. So we want to make sure that we're eating exactly what our body needs, not more and not less. Now, as far as sometimes if people I hear talking about weight loss or with that, being properly hydrated can also help make sure that you're maintaining a healthy weight. I know it sounds crazy, but often we are mistaking thirst for hunger. I do it all the time. Right now, I actually wish I had a thing of water with me. And I think that I'm also like, oh, I wish I had something to eat here. But the truth is, I am just thirsty, and I'm going to be thirsty the rest of the night because I'm speaking. And the truth is, that is one of the things that our body just confuses. So before even going and grabbing something, have 4 ounces, like take a big gulp of water or some warm water, or keep a water bottle with you. You can do it with seltzer, you can do it with different flavor things, and making sure that you're drinking throughout the day. Again, some people don't like water. We can turn to some of those vitamin waters, or if I would tell people, if you're not having fruit in your diet, do 100% fruit juice. I would just encourage you to water it down. But we want to make sure that you're staying hydrated as well. And so I just want to bring this to everybody's attention, because I often hear people say, oh, I can't have dairy because it's going to cause inflammation. And I just want to say that the studies have actually been inconclusive. If you have a problem with dairy, so that you may have lactose intolerance or something else going on, if you have dairy, you will have inflammation. But somebody who has and some people don't even know that that's a problem. But if you are a person who can process dairy without any issues, you are not necessarily going to have a problem, and that dairy in your diet is going to cause inflammation. Also, I want to say specifically, removing dairy from your diet is a large food group. So people who say, oh, I have lactose intolerance or this doesn't sit well with me, that's fine. But then you need to work with the dietitian to say, I can't tolerate dairy. What other products can I include to make sure that I'm meeting my calcium needs? And so I just think that that's super important, especially as many patients with RA or many people here might be on steroids or have been in their past. Bone health is super important. And so dairy is a huge source. It's one of our biggest sources of calcium. And so if we remove something like dairy altogether, then we're also actually removing calcium from our diet. So we want to make sure that we're incorporating it back. And so you can get it from other foods like fortified foods, fortified orange juices some, and sometimes it's added to certain breakfast foods or soy milk. And so again, that's important. And now we're in the age of soy milk, almond milk, rice milk, hemp milk, camel milk. There are so many milks out there. I always encourage people to look at the back of the nutrition label. Most of them are not fortified with calcium. Cow's milk naturally has it. And most of them, well, cow's milk is fortified with it. And most of them barely have protein. Almond milk, there's no protein in it. It's less than 1 gram. Cow's milk will have 12 grams in a serving. So just keep that in mind when we're thinking about nutrition and the types of foods. Vitamin D is also, you'll get it in some fatty fish. It is one of those that is particularly hard to get, but so your doctor may have tested you for vitamin D and recommended a vitamin D supplement. So now we're kind of, I know I've just been blah, 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 blah. Everyone's saying, okay, she said, don't eat this, don't eat this. What can I eat? So from my standpoint, I want you to eat real whole foods. Crazy concept, I know, right? So when we talked about looking at the packaged foods, so when you're looking at it, again, this is where I want everybody here to learn how to be a detective for themselves. Choose products that are made with the foods themselves. I think I forgot to include it, but I used to have I meant to include it, slides with peanut butter. And to kind of show that what should be in peanut butter, I always ask this to people. The only ingredient all of you should be saying right now, what should be in peanut butter? The answer is peanuts. Maybe a little bit of salt, but just the answer is peanuts. Peanuts should be the only thing in peanut butter. So if you have peanut butter in your pantry, go take it out. If you have anything more than just the word peanuts in it, it may not be the peanut butter you should be consuming. Granted, that may be what your body is used to and the taste and things like that, but I guarantee you, your taste buds can change because we have taught our taste buds to need some of those things and we can unteach it as well. And so this is just a good rule that I have for people. If you can't pronounce it, if you can't read it, don't eat it. If you don't know what it is, don't eat it. So certain things are just, we may not know what they are, but you can look it up and say, oh, this is something that's in rice or in certain things. But oftentimes, the more that we're looking at our products and we see what's in it, the more that we'll see that there are 50 products on that shelf, and there are probably 2 of them that you can find, and it doesn't mean that they'll cost more money. Because again, Smucker's Natural is the same peanut butter as same price category as Jif and Skippy, same, but it's just natural. Doesn't mean anything, but all of these things have different words in on it. You can use them, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So there are certain laws about which products, which words you can put on your label, but it doesn't mean that it's as clean as you think they are. So again, if you cannot read it, don't eat it. I always tell people if there was a Breyers commercial a long time ago and they had the kids reading the ice cream, would you believe? And they couldn't pronounce it because ice cream should be made with cream, sugar, milk, eggs. And so the truth is that's true ice cream. And so it had all of these other added chemicals. So that's just how I look at the foods when I'm choosing them. And so again, if we're looking at what our plate looks like, we want lean protein, we want some whole grains that we talked about, and then we want as much vegetables as possible. Our cabbage, our broccoli, our carrots, our lettuce, our tomatoes, all those different things. So again, we talked about this. I want you to be eating more fruits and vegetables, preferably vegetables, but also the fruit. I just want you to be mindful of your fruit intake because people will go overboard, especially as we head in, hopefully soon, to those summer months with the watermelon, the cherries, the strawberries. All amazing, but I want you to also spend equal amount of time focusing on the salads, the cucumbers, the tomatoes, the mushrooms, the cabbage, all of those things. Being mindful that corn is something that you do want to have in moderation, but as we talk about like the summer barbecues, you can still include them, but also add the grilled vegetables to your plate as well. We want more lean protein, that fatty fish for the omega-3 that we talked about, including our low-fat dairy because we want to make sure that we're keeping our bones strong for that calcium and whole grains because fiber is fabulous. And then we want to focus on eating less salt, added sugars, fast food, refined grains, and all of those bad fats. Because remember, that other side of that slide, if I showed you, I'll go all the way back, bring it, show you how I take everything full circle. So again, all of these things on the bottom are those things that we don't want to be on the high side, but we happen to be on, and that's not where we want to be. So again, fruits and vegetables, at least 4.5 cups a day. Wow, that's crazy. But again, most of us are having 1 to 2 cups, which is why our fiber intake is closer to like 8 to 10. And I want to get everybody on this call, we can start somewhere, up to at least 25 to 30 grams. Our fish, at least 3.5 to 4 ounces servings a week. Fiber-rich whole grains. Remember, we talked about this 25 to 30. It will help with our whole grains and also adding more vegetables to your diet. Sodium, we were trying to keep it under 2,400 milligrams a day. For processed meats, no more than 2 servings a week, but obviously trying to limit them as best as we can. We want to try to limit our foods that are high in the saturated and trans fat. Those are our baked goods, processed things like that. And then water, obviously, and just staying hydrated, aim for 8 to 10 tall glasses a day. I wanted to just include this because I know this is always a hot topic. As far as herbs and spices and the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis. So there isn't enough evidence to support like a particular use of herbs and spices. There have been some studies. I'm not going to say that there aren't. And again, remember, I'm loving to stay up to date with this stuff and calling each and every one of you if something changes. But they do have anti-inflammatory properties. We can't deny that. But as to say, like, oh, if you have this, then you're not going to be on your medication, we're not there yet. And also, the more supplements that we're taking, the more interactions that they have. So that being said, including these in amounts into your food are fabulous. And remember, we also want to limit the salt intake. So this is a great way to do it. So if you want to put cinnamon on your oatmeal, fabulous. Also a whole grain, so shout out to that. Turmeric and curry powder, another great one. You can put it on vegetables. You can also put it on your whole grains. Ginger, another one. It has great anti-inflammatory properties, very soothing on the stomach. Kind of the opposite of what we think of when we think of garlic, but super tasty. You can do garlic oils and a lot of different things. So try to include these in your meals. You don't need to go overboard, but at least including that can also make your food more exciting. As everyone begins to head on that journey of 25 to 30 grams, we need something to make those vegetables tasty. And then again, about supplements, they're not regulated. And so the quality and content can vary widely. So that's the same thing. You might see a cinnamon or a turmeric supplement or things like that. I would much rather you use the food and have some garlic on your food or add some curry powder or things to get these anti-inflammatory properties than to do it in a pill form. And so also with those, like we see things in mice and things like that. And again, just because it happens in mice doesn't mean that it's going to happen in humans. And there's so many variables in humans. I always say there is no broccoli lobby in the sense like there's no big farm, like broccoli doesn't have this big backing of money of people paying for studies to be done. But we do know that people who are eating more fruits and vegetables and have these real foods in their diet tend to feel better. And so they look better, they feel better, they're walking around. And so we want to make sure, and hopefully everyone on this call now has that secret. It's not a secret anymore, including them. So we want to make sure that what we are taking is safe. So please always talk to your doctor. And I know I mentioned this earlier about an omega-3 supplement. Granted, we can get it from food, but it would be something, and I want everybody here to talk to their doctor. Do not go out on their own to just start taking a supplement. With that being said, I hope I didn't talk your ear off too much, and I would love to open it up to questions.